Okay, we're up on all platforms. And let me do one other thing and we'll get this going.
When I'm flying in the sky, I'm totally free. There's nothing else that I'm thinking about. There's a sense of clarity. Anything is possible.
What does Anthony do?
What does Anthony do? Anthony's my crazy pilot friend.
I came from the mud. There's dirt on my hands. Strong like a tree. There's roots where I stand. Oh, I've been running from the law. Hope they won't shoot me down soon. They sing on a sleepless night. Try to catch me howling at the moon. Try to catch me howling at the moon. Try to catch me howling at the moon.
Anthony was very active. He's very hyper. So that's what I remember about
He
my
is a
son.
very, very hyper kid. Where I come from, kids have to be hyper. If they're not hyper, then something is wrong with them.
Everyone got teased, everyone got made fun of, people got their feelings hurt, wrestle, fight, and all that good stuff, just things that we did growing up. I played a lot of sports growing up. I played basketball, soccer, hockey, all that stuff, but basketball is just the one that stuck with me throughout college, actually. Teachers would ask me, Anthony, what do you want to be when you grow up? It was immediately, I want to be a pilot. I knew at the age of 5 that I wanted to fly airplanes.
The intensity that Anthony has with flying has always been there since the first day that he saw that airplanes take off and landed in Austin.
We parked the car on the runway, turned the car around, and all day we saw airplanes fly right over the car. When it first happened, I was in awe. I remember it flew over the car, I turned around, I put my hands on my dad's shoulders, and before I could mutter the words to say, Dad, what's going on? My dad said, there's another one coming around the corner. Sit down, let's watch it. So we sat down the whole day, entire afternoon, watching airplanes fly over the car, landing. My breath was pretty much taken away at that point. I'm like, okay, well, I guess I know what I'm doing for the rest of my life.
And the first day he told me that he's aerobatic pilot, I thought he was crazy. And then the first day I went out and watched him, I almost had a heart attack.
I don't go watch him. It scares me. He wants to take me in the plane. I am not going to go up there. Forget it.
Everybody asked me, like, why do you flip upside down and do these twirly things in the air? And I tell them, like, I didn't choose aviation. Aviation simply chose me. I mean, who chooses to, oh, let me go take this airplane and make myself sick?
Hello, everybody. Welcome to All Things Aviation and Aerospace. This is going to be a fun show. I'm actually really looking forward to having Anthony Oshinuga on. You know, he's a aerobatic pilot. He's an air racer. And as you could see from the video, he's just a huge fan of flying and all the things that go with it. So really looking forward to that conversation. And a little bit about Anthony's background. So Nearly a decade ago, he was studying mechanical engineering, and he graduated with a degree as a mechanical engineer. But he burst onto the aerobatic flying scene, making his first appearance as a competitor at the US National Aerobatic Championships, and followed that the next year, competing in the National Championship air races in Reno, Nevada. His journey to this day has been one of groundbreaking victories, show-stopping aerobatic performances, and eye-opening challenges. His name is Anthony Oshinuga. His skill set, flying the heck out of a Pitts Special aerobatic airplane, and his preference is flying upside down for as long as possible. Anthony is based just north of San Diego, and if you detect a little bit of envy in my voice, well, I used to fly in Southern California and got some of the best weather out there. It's one of the most beautiful places on earth as far as I'm concerned to fly. Now, you do have that occasional pesky little marine layer, but outside of that, beautiful weather, clear skies. In fact, looks like he's got that kind of weather today. Anthony, welcome to All Things Aviation and Aerospace.
Hey Vince, thanks for having me. It's an honor to be on your show again. It's been a long time no talk. I'm happy to be here and just kind of catch you up on what's been going on in my side of the streets here.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I have a lot of things to talk to you about, but I just have to ask you, what is it with you and liking to fly upside down?
I don't know. It's an unusual bug I caught when I was probably like 13 years old when I went on my first aerobatic flight. That's when I was, it was back in Flaybob at the Flaybob airport. I remember doing my first loop and roll, and I asked the instructor on the way back after flying back to the home base, I said, everything we just did, was that legal? Like, loops and, upside down flying? He said, yes, it's totally legal. We were above 1,500 feet. We were at the practice area. And at that point in time, I knew that, hey, forget
this is something you like to do.
Yeah, forget straight level flying. This is the way to go for me. So ever since then, I haven't looked back.
Yeah. So you were talking about that your passion started when you were only 5 years old. Tell us about that and where, that trip out to the airport and watching planes fly over and getting hooked, which by the way, kind of relate.
Yeah, so I was actually recently, it's funny that you mentioned that. I was recently talking to my father a couple months ago, and I was like, Dad, remember that time when, we took me to the airport when I was 5 years old, and, when the airplanes were flying over the car, he was like, son, you were actually 2 years old. And I'm like, and I told my dad, 2 years old? I mean, because the memory is so vividly clear that I thought I was 5, but he corrected me, I was 2. But essentially, my dad was going to college at the time in Texas, and his friend invited him to the airport. He took me along, of course, and I remember sitting down on his lap eating a peanut butter jelly sandwich, and this airplane was coming at the car, and I was super nervous at the time. I remember I was freaking out. I dropped the sandwich on the ground. I was like, what is going on? And this airplane flew right over the car and landed right behind us. And I remember, now that I'm older, I knew it was just coming for a normal approach to landing. It's just, back in those days, we didn't have the perimeter fencing around the airport. People could just drive on in and out. But, my dad had his car at the approach end of the runway on the dirt, and the cars were just flying over land. And it was remarkable. I mean, those little things like that at a young age, it just makes that impression on you for eternity. And it has developed in something monstrous, right? Because now I'm doing competition aerobatics, flying up, racing and stuff like that. And it's just from that little incident of this airplane flying over the car.
Yeah, I can actually totally relate to that. I grew up flying in St. Louis, and before, as you said, before they had all of the restrictions for security and perimeter, we actually could sit in the parking lot on the approach or departure end of the runway, depending on which way it was being used.
Yeah.
And you could literally smell the oil off of the engine.
That's amazing.
It was that close.
Yeah.
And, I didn't even think about safety stuff. I was just like, this is just absolutely cool.
Yeah. I don't think anybody did it back in the day. It was just, we were out there having fun, watching airplanes fly, and getting inspired by those that can fly those machines in the air so elegantly.
So one of the things that the audience that watches this show and listens to the show thinks about or asks about a lot is they like to hear the story of your, of how you got to where you are. And I'm going to start going all the way back to getting a degree in mechanical engineering. How did you go about choosing that degree? And how did that play into where you were with aviation?
Okay, so my father knew that I was all aviation. I mean, that's all I wanted to do. Since like I said, since 2 years old, I wanted to go to the Air Force and do all that. And when it came to selecting a college, or when I was in high school and I was thinking about going to college and settling to college, my dad, because he was an engineer, he advised me and my two brothers like, hey, you should think about science. Of course, it's aerospace, but he sent us, me and my brother, to Pennsylvania. I think we were like maybe a freshman or a sophomore in high school. So he put us on an airplane, and we're in high school. We just flew to Penn State, Pennsylvania, Penn State Alliance, and we went for about a week and a half. And each 2 days, we learned about each different discipline of engineering, right? So mechanical engineering, electrical engineering, computer science engineering, biomedical, aerospace was in there, but it's more fluid dynamic stuff like that. So, and then we came back home and we discussed with my father. I said, well, Dad, this is the curriculums they have. I really love aerospace. He said, well, let me give you an advice. I recommend maybe leaning towards mechanical engineering, because mechanical engineering, it within that discipline, it branches off to other engineering disciplines. So when I went to the University of California, Riverside, they taught me not only mechanical engineering things, but I also learned electrical engineering stuff. I learned computer engineering things. I mean, there were so many engineering things in there. And now that I look back at it, my dad was just trying to prepare us for the outside world to allow us to be more broad, have a degree that's so broad that we can fall into anything out there. So right now,
Smart thinking.
Yeah, exactly. And so in the off season, when it's snowing out there and we're not flying air shows and whatnot, I pick up a little small seasonal consultant gig doing biopharmaceuticals or biomedicals. So where they're building and manufacturing stents that are implanted in your peripheral carotid arteries. For
That's your side gig?
Yeah. Because I mean, aviation is so expensive, and it's not. It's I'm not gonna say it's lucrative. It's just it's work, right? And it's just paying the bills. It's just paying the bills, because I love to fly, and I can't imagine not flying. So when I'm not flying, I'm not paying the bills. So I need to figure out some way to either do something on the side, or find a big time sponsor that wants to sponsor me, allow me to keep pursue my dream. But right now, it's just me doing what I got to do to keep flying.
Sure, but Anthony, I admire what you do, because you have an entrepreneurial spirit, for one, but you have put that in motion in a way to help you really support this great passion that you have, and the desire that you have to do the air shows and to air race and things of that nature. So you created your company, Air Oshi. Did I say that correct?
That's correct. Yep.
Yeah, Air Oshi. Tell us about that. Tell us about when you got the idea, and then decided what that was going to be about. And it's kind of unique, because you actually, on the side, I guess you could say, or as another aspect of your flying, provide aerial wine tours.
Yes, exactly.
Which I think is pretty cool.
Yeah. So it started back in, I think it was 2011, and I was asking myself, well, the ultimate goal was to fly aerobatics and compete at the highest level. And then when I started to research about the airplanes, and then the cost of maintaining an airplane, the cost of fuel, the cost of oil, I mean, the cost of entry fees for events, and I got that number. I'm like, well, how do I afford this on an annual basis? So then I thought to myself, well, what sells in the world? What's the top 3 highest selling thing in the world? So a couple of things were like alcohol, cigarettes, and stuff like that. I don't like cigarettes. I don't want to be around cigarettes, but alcohol, I started to dissect alcohol. So then I figured out, well, people love wine. It's a form of alcohol. How can I pair that with flying? Although we're not going to drink and fly, like the pilot's not going to have a beverage and fly it. No. How do we,
of course not.
How do we intertwine a good aviation experience with wine? So I came up with Air Oshi. Essentially what we do is we fly clients over Temecula, the Temecula vineyards, and Temecula is known as the southern part of Napa, right?
A wine country, exactly.
Yeah, wine country. It's not Napa, but it's Napa in terms of that's what we have in Southern California. There's over 100 wineries in Temecula wine country. So I created a package where I'll take adventurous people that love wine and want to have an adventure in an airplane, fly them 500 foot. That's the lowest we can fly over this area and give them a nice slow aerial scenic tour over the rolling hills of Temecula. And I think it's a beautiful thing, because what happens is that not only you create an experience, but you create something that no one has ever experienced before. Flying and then land and then go wine taste at a winery all day. It's a pretty easy sell. So in 2013, once I created that business model in 2013, that's when I executed on the business model. I found Cessna 170A. It's a nice retro airplane tail dragger, which I love. And I retroed it out inside. And then I got a loan on that. And then I start selling these. And then I partnered with the FAA. I got an LOA, a letter of authorization, which allows me to fly in that area, just take off,
Right.
and land. And then so I got all my ducks in a row. And then I start advertising, I start marketing, and people start falling through the door and saying, "Hey, I want to try this out." And then we start getting word of mouth. That spread, and now we're busy, and now we're just flying. So I use those proceeds to buy my biplane. So then I use that proceeds to buy the plane,
To buy the pits.
the pits. And then when I start flying the pits, and I start trying to hone my skills in that thing, and that took me a couple of years to hone, because the pits is an extraordinary airplane, but if you're not on top of it all the time until it has come to a complete stop, it can bite you real quickly. So I got accustomed to that. I mastered that, and then one thing led to another. But it all started from Air Oshi. Air Oshi is why I'm kind of here at this moment, and it's like I said, it's like a domino effect. The Air Oshi is paying for the pits. Air shows is paying for me to continue to fly the pits, and and stuff like that. But it's very like fine line. Everything has to work, kind of almost perfectly, and that's the challenge, every day. But
Yeah.
to answer your question, yeah, that's what I created. I created a good experience for people to come out from all over the world and just come fly with me and come do this wine tour taste. Bring your loved ones or your friends, or for the adventure of Temecula wine country.
Yeah. So and that's really great to support it, although it is an expensive endeavor that you do in terms of flying. But you have a competitive spirit that makes it even more interesting, because while you do fly the air shows and the aerobatics, do the aerobatic performances, you also like air racing. So how does that come into play in terms of you're doing air shows, but also wanting to do air racing? I know that I think that the what's it called?
Reno Air Races?
Well, not the Reno. I was thinking of the other race.
Red Bull Air Races?
Red Bull, thank you.
Yep.
That Red Bull, I think Red Bull's on pause for a minute, right?
Yeah, they're on pause right now. I think there's a new organization called Air Race, and I think they're going to be starting up here maybe in the next year or so. So they're
Okay.
And I think.
Are you looking forward to that opportunity again?
I would love to race within the organization of Air Race. I would love to, get up there and just kind of have fun with the boys, go fly it. And I think it's a different type of race than Reno, because Reno Air Races is you have 8 other airplanes in the air. You're flying around pylons, and it's loose formation, and you got to be really on point. Whereas you're racing against other people in close proximity, as well as you're getting clocked in time. Where the Red Bull races was a bit different, where it was just you in the course by yourself against the clock.
Okay.
Going through chicanes and then they had like a kind of a Cuban, like a reverse Cuban, or not reverse Cuban, but a Cuban, where you had to come up and do a half loop around and go through pylons. So it's 2 different types of racing when you look at it.
Yeah. Did you ever consider, on the air show side, did you ever consider military flying at all?
You know what? The sad story is I did, but my mom shut it down, when I was 12. I mean, I'm just going to be candid with you. When, Top Gun came out, the original Top Gun came out, and I don't know, man. I was watching that movie every time I could as a kid.
Right.
And when I was 12, I was telling my mom and my dad. My dad was okay with that thing. I told my mom, "Hey, Mom, I already know what I'm going to do." What's that? I'm going to go to the Air Force, or I want to fly jets. I want to fly like the F-15 Eagle.
And Mom said no.
She shut it down. She shut it way down. And my parents are foreign, so my mom and it's from Nigeria. My dad's from Nigeria, so they came out here when they're like in their mid to late 20s, and her thing was, I just don't want my kid. I don't want my kid getting. I don't want to get my kid to get hurt out there, getting shot or whatever. And I don't want my kid shooting at anybody else. And that's what her. That's what her thing was. And at the age of 12, I'm like, Mom, what are you talking about? I figured it out. I have my plan in my head. I want to go to the Air Force. I want to fly jets for free. They're going to pay me to fly these jets, Mom. I want a missile on my wing. I want to go have fun. And she wasn't having it. And again, it was hard for me to understand at the age of 12, but I understand where she was coming from now. So it made things challenging. Like every step of the way growing up in my life, I had to figure out how to feed this this hunger of aviation. And I think right now I'm at a good spot because I'm pretty much competition aerobatics is very challenging. It's where you got to fly this airplane pretty much perfect, and then you're getting subjective critiques, right, from the judges on the ground. They're like, that was straight, that's a straight vertical line, or your roll was kind of barrel. And so it's not only you challenging yourself, but you gotta kind of impress the judges that are watching you from below. Let's
talk about the air show life, but before we do that, I want to ask you, have you gotten your mom in an airplane yet?
Yeah, my mom is just definitely scared of aviation. She, like, when she's flying from Nigeria to America, she's scared.
They had to knock her out.
Yeah. And my sisters, I have one sister. I have two sisters. One of my two sisters, she's also scared of flying for some reason. But my other sister, oh man, she comes down to visit me. She was like, let's go fly for brunch. Let's go down the coast and go hang out. And I'm always taking her up. But yeah, my mom's just a little scared of flying. And I kind of come to terms to that. And it's okay.
Hey, it's not everybody's thing. It may be ours, but not everybody else's. Yeah. Let's talk about the air show life and what that's been like for you, what it's like to not only perform in an air show, but the whole process of of being hired to fly in an air show and all of those type of things. I want to give our audience an opportunity to really hear from you what you have to go through every time you're prepping for an air show or trying to get accepted into an air show, etc.
Okay, so the process is an organization called ICAS, International Council of Air Show, Performers, and so they have an annual event every year in Las Vegas, and in Las Vegas, in one of the hotels that they choose that convention, we have a booth, and in the booth it's your time to show who you are. Everybody has their own unique way of showing that. Some people get huge booths, some people get small booths and stuff like that. So in my booth, I try to paint a picture of who I am, right? So I like to have a big TV monitor there, having me flying or doing some type of aerial activity. I like to have like brochures on the table, and I like to stand in my flight suit, or dress really nice. So when air show organizers are walking by, hundreds of booths, I stand out. And then once they approach me and start asking me questions, I just like how you and I are talking, just a candid conversation, tell them who I am, where I'm from, and I let them know who my aces are, who I've worked with in the industry. And then I talk to them about my flight performance, what I can do for them. I like to interject, that I love to talk to kids. I love to get involved with inner city kids. I love to do, if I can fly in a day before the air show, send me to the nearest YMCA. Let me do a presentation to a high school.
That's great.
There's something.
Yeah. But Anthony, you've been doing this for a while. I would think you kind of stand out for obvious reasons.
Yeah, I mean, yeah,
I would think everybody in the air show, because our aviation world, we all know each other one way or another. So it's a pretty small circle. And in the aviation air show circle, I would imagine most people by now know who you are.
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah, I definitely would say they know of me, or they definitely know who I am or know of me for sure.
And then you've proven yourself in the performance aspect of it.
Yeah, I've been here. I mean, it's been a long road, to tell you the truth, Vince. It's been a long, long road. It started in 2017. First year was good. Then the second year was the second 2 years was quite bumpy. Just going through the process of proving my worth and working. In my as far as I'm concerned, I think I definitely over delivered. I went beyond what they were asking for, and I've been fortunate enough to meet some really, really good guys in the industry to help me along, to mentor me, because there's not a lot of mentorship I don't see right now in the airshow world. You kind of have to there's no mentor program, right? It's not like, I wish there was like a list of names and like, here are available mentors in the airshow industry. They're available for you, right? They didn't have that. And then secondly, there was nobody that looked like me. So I was like, well, like, not that I couldn't go to somebody that I didn't look like me, but I would love to hear somebody that looks like me, that went through what I've gone through, and then get their perspective on it. Because now I'm sure they have years and years of knowledge and wisdom, where I'm like a trailblazer. Just I'm doing things based on what feels right and the teachings that my family, my mom and dad has instilled.
Sure.
Right. So one of those things is respect. And honor, right. So I think if you lead with respect and honor, that should get you through a lot of the static that, that we see in the world today. And then after that, you got to be kind of, you got to be kind of methodical and just almost playing chess. You got to make your right moves. And
think ahead of things. But do you think also the lack of mentorship or is because of how competitive the industry is? I mean, so there are a lot of air shows, and then there aren't, so to speak. And there's only, and some air shows can only have so many performers in them, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So that makes it for a very competitive environment. So I'm wondering if some people keep it close to the vest because they're just trying to hold on to their own and get their own sponsorship and keep their own gig going.
Yeah, well, you're bringing up a really, really good point, and I don't know, because like I said, I'm a different generation. I'm a younger generation, so I'm coming in, and the way I look at it is like, hey, I'm gonna help you. I'm gonna help you. If you need help, I'm gonna come in. You're new in the industry. Let me help you. Let me give you some guidance. Let me tell you how it is. I feel like if you look at it as a whole, I'm probably there's probably maybe one or two, maybe 3, 4 other guys, but I'm one of the youngest guys in the industry. Everybody, like Sean Tucker just retired.
Right.
Chapman just retired. I mean, there's other really prestigious air show pilots that are getting up there in age, and they're going to be retiring soon. Because I when I'm pulling these Gs, 6 Gs every day, 10 Gs, and when I'm borrowing another plane, that's taxing on the body. And when you're 65 years old, and you're pulling these Gs like that, it's like, what? And so I say that to say this, it's, as the older generation are walking out the door and the new generations are coming, I think this is the perfect point where you should put your hand around their shoulders and actually help them out. Because when you're gone and you leave it to us with no knowledge of how the business should be ran or anything like that, then things start to fall apart. I feel like it should be continuity. It should be togetherness. There should be first of all, there's only probably 200 airshow, maybe less than 200 airshow pilots in North America. That's nothing.
Right. It really isn't. That's why I say it's a very small world and therefore very competitive. But you bring up an incredibly valid point that these guys are starting to age out. Most of them have been performing anywhere between 20 and 40 years. Yeah. And then you bring up another great point, which is about the physicality of it, which I was going to actually ask you, do you find, because of how physical aerobatic flying is, that you kind of have to also stay in shape, so to speak?
Yeah, 100%. So I call it seasons, right? Seasons. So when people say, I say, hey, my season's about to start. And they were like, what does that mean? I said, well, competition aerobatics, air show season for me starts around March. So the month before that season starts, I like to start to get in shape. I like to get in the gym and re-strengthen the core muscles in my body to keep the blood in my head when I'm pulling these Gs. 1, 2, when season starts, I don't drink alcohol. I'm not drinking beers. I'm not doing anything like that. It's water every day because I know what I'm bringing to the table, and I know what this means to me. So I don't
You could almost say you're like a professional athlete. You have to take care of yourself physically to be able to withstand all of the physical aspect of flying.
It's because there's no second chances out here when you're flying this airplane low to the ground and you're doing these inverted flat spins, tumbles, and it's unforgiving. So I want to make sure that I'm on top of my game every time I step in this airplane. And so staying in shape, eating right and getting your mind ready and your body ready has really done me really well throughout the years. So I just want to keep that up. So when I say that, it's just looking at the older generation that are getting older in age. Not to say they're old, but 65, pulling 10 Gs, that's a lot. That's a lot. Every weekend.
It starts to Starts to hit that safety margin.
So,
Yeah.
but these guys are in shape, man. I mean, like you look at guys like the Mike Goulians, the Kirby Chamblises, the Sean Tucker's still super in shape. It's like, but they're on probably some type of like food regimen like I am on. They're probably eating really, really healthy. They're working out, running on treadmills and so forth.
Yeah. Anthony, you were mentioning about how you like to mentor and inspire the younger generation, which I think is great. I think it's neat that when you do an air show, you make yourself available the day before or whatever to go out and talk to some kids or things along that nature. If you were talking to some kids that might be watching this show that are in high school, for example, and this is catching their attention is like, oh, that sounds like fun, aerobatic flying. If they wanted to pursue that, what types of tips would you provide?
Okay, so I would say first and foremost, get your private pilot's license. Become really good at just basic maneuvers, like turning on the point and stalls and all that good stuff. Because stalls is just the tip of the iceberg. Because when you're flying aerobatics, you're stalling, but they're going to put you in a 1.5 turn spin or something like that. You'll be doing hammerheads, pulling to the verticals and stuff like that. But I would say get your private pilot's license, become really proficient in that area of maneuvering the aircraft, and then once you're ready or you feel confident enough, there's an organization called IAC, International Aerobatic Club. You join that, and then when you join that, there's going to be a list of aerobatic schools in your area, and once you identify that, then you can reach out to one of those officials, and then they can get you started in that program. So they'll probably invite you out to a contest, an aerobatic contest that's nearby. They'll have probably aerobatic rental aircraft for you to rent, and they'll probably put you in the airplane and just kind of take you up and so you can experience your first loop like I did in first roll. And if you still are you're still hanging on at that point, then they'll start putting you into an aerobatic program where what we like to do first is like go through a upset and a recovery program where they put you in an airplane. They'll do like an inverted spin and teach you how to get out of it. They'll put you in an upright spin, teach you how to recover from that. Well, they'll put you in certain situations so that you know how to recover from an airplane. And then from that, it's there's multiple steps after that. But the more steps you go through, the more comfortable you'll be in doing aerobatics by yourself once you get to that point.
Yeah. How long does all of that take? What's the length of time that it takes to gain some experience to where you can, really start gearing yourself towards seeing if you can actually perform in an air show?
Yeah. So we're saying air show. So air show is a different beast. So, the kind of the general unspoken word is like, they want you to compete first in aerobatics. And they want you to compete.
Okay.
Yeah, they want
you the process is to get into competition first.
Competition aerobatics, because what competition aerobatic does is it teaches you how to be precise, how to
refine your skills.
Yeah, you have to be almost perfect when you're flying these maneuvers. Because when you do competition aerobatics, you're flying these maneuvers at, the bottom of your box is 1,500 feet, the top of your box is 3,500. So you're up there and you're doing these maneuvers. When you're doing air shows, if you have a service waiver, the bottom of your box is the ground. So you can't do these maneuvers. If you can't do these maneuvers up high, there's no way you can certainly do these maneuvers down low.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
and live to tell about it.
Right. So it's a process. So the older generation, which I totally agree, they want you to, probably fly at the advanced level, some
of
don't.
Aerobatic competition.
Yeah, advanced level. And then maybe then and win, not just fly, but fly, compete, be competitive and win, and then start talking about air show stuff.
Yeah,
that's how typically it goes. That's how my track is. I mean, I don't know if I don't know if that's the right way, but that's how I kind of did it.
Well, no, it actually makes a lot of sense, and I'm just trying to again give the viewers an opportunity to understand what the process is. Yeah, you get your private pilot's license and start basic, and then you learn maneuvers at that level, and then start moving into the aerobatic flying and then competitive. And the competitive, as you said, refines your skills, and at some point when you're at an advanced stage, that can translate to going into the air show world.
Yeah, because the air show pilots, what we're doing is it's so calculated, and it takes very little effort, even though it looks incredibly difficult in advance, right? But we're at that level where that's what it takes to fly. Because the last thing we want is to, you know, have somebody go to do an air show and crash and die. So that's the last thing we want. So before you even get to the air show circuit, you have to be, you know, on your game.
Yeah, one of the things that I think is really fascinating, I've had the privilege of being behind the scenes at an air show and watching pilots prep just before they go up. And you see them literally just before they jump in the plane and fire it up, that they're going through their routine.
Yes.
They're standing on the ground and they're taking their hands and, you know, they're counting it out and they're talking themselves through the entire routine before they ever get in the airplane.
Yeah. So the reason behind that, so I hired a coach. He's a Red Bull. He was a Red Bull strength. It was like a strength and conditioning psychologist coach. Is like for the mind, right? He strengthens the mind. This guy's amazing. So what he taught me was this, and I didn't know that. I didn't know that until like a couple years ago. He says when you have a sequence of maneuvers that's planned that you're going to go fly. He says for me to walk it through, close your eyes and walk it through your mind. Like what we're doing when we see these guys walking and doing those things, we're visualizing what we're doing before we get in an airplane. And he tells me that the brain doesn't know the difference between reality and fiction. If you close your eyes and you vision yourself doing these maneuvers, you know, the things that you see and all this stuff, your brain feels like you've flown it already. So when you get in an airplane, it's not going to be, even though you haven't flown it yet, it's going to be your second time flying it because you've already flown it in your brain. So it's some amazing things this guy, Eric Potterack is his name, that taught me as I'm advancing through the career. So I believe strongly this is one of the reasons why we do this before we jump in an airplane for air show. We walk it. We close our eyes, we envision, like if I'm pulling to the vertical, I look off the left, in my mind, I know that's going to be a red barn off the left. I do a quarter roll, stop. I know there's going to be a lake when I stop. I see it in my mind. So when I get in the airplane, it's just fluid. I'm not thinking anymore. It becomes second nature. And that's the level, again, these air show pilots are at, you know.
And that's also a military level. And as in the Air Force Thunderbirds and the Navy Blue Angels, they do the same thing. At the speeds and the level of flying that they do, but they also talk themselves through it mentally prior to going out on the line and jumping in the aircraft. With flying these shows, and I actually had a couple questions about it, but let me start with this and go back to something that I think is really important that was also on my mind, and that is about kind of having an alternative, because as you've said, flying it's great, and it's a great experience. You can make money with it, but you have to work really hard at it. But one of the things that has helped you was the education that you got prior to really getting into it.
Yes.
And I guess I want to direct that to the younger audience that's watching and see what your thoughts are, hear what your thoughts are about that, about, you know, what maybe what you should be studying in school or be thinking about, even if you think something like this would be so exciting to do.
So can you repeat that? I just want to make sure I understand the question correctly. Can you repeat that last sentence for me?
Yeah, what you recommend as far as young people preparing prior to actually getting into flying from an education standpoint. I guess that's the simplest way for me to put it.
Yeah, so I would say, I mean, my recommendation is, I mean, if you can, find something that you love. I was just so fortunate for me that, you know, my dad was an engineer. So, and then, you know, ever since I was younger, I just was drawn to numbers and stuff like that because of him at a young age. So I would say find something that you love and then go after it. Hopefully it's engineering, something that's relatable to aviation. And then once you get good at it, make sure get as many accolades as you can. So what I mean by that is, if you're getting like a degree in mathematics, get masters in it, get a master's in it, or just get an advanced degree. Because I've noticed that some of our friends that have a advanced degree, when they go to the military, they get bumped up to a higher level off the top, just upon entry. Whereas people that just come in with just a regular degree or or no degree, they start from the bottom, and they have to work harder to get to the point where somebody else who came in with a advanced degree is. If that makes any
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah. So tell us what you have coming up. What shows are you getting ready to do, and other activities that you're involved in
Yeah,
aviation
so
wise?
this weekend I got the March Air Force Base Air Show, so that's going to be a lot of fun. The last time I flew that one, I think, was in 2018 or 17. That was a lot of fun. It's in my backyard. It's in the home base. A week after that, I got a competition in Borrego. And then, like I said, air show seasons happen. It's air show season and competition aerobatic seasons. It's happening. So some of the big things I'm looking forward to is the USA National Aerobatic Championships, which is happening in September. And then coincidentally, the World Aerobatic Championships is actually going to be in the United States this year. Usually it's in Poland or somewhere in overseas, where we have to dismantle our airplanes, put it in a shipping container and ship it, and then get over there.
Oh, wow.
Put it together.
That's an
Yeah.
expense.
It's a lot, and put it together, test fly it, and then go fly this air show. So this time it's in our backyard. So all we got to do is just go in there and fly.
Where is it?
It's in Nevada, Jean, Nevada. So it's just south of Henderson Airport.
Okay.
Yeah, it's right there.
Out there by Las Vegas.
Yep.
Yeah. Wow. That's pretty exciting. And when does that one take place?
The one it's going to be mid-October to the first week or second.
That's what I thought. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So you'll get a lot of the best pilots all over the world coming down. From Australia, from Europe, from all those places. So it's going to be one heck of a time. So the way you get into this air show to the World Aerobatic Championships, you got to be on the USA team. So to get on the USA team, that means last year you would have to place, I think, top 10 or whatever. I didn't place top 10, but there's a way for me to go in there and compete. The reason why I didn't place top 10, and not to give anybody an excuse that's watching, last year in March during my air show evaluation, I was doing like an air show, getting ready for an air show eval. The wing, I damaged the wings during a maneuver or something like that. So we had to take the wings apart and rebuild the top and bottom wings. So my airplane was down from March till September.
Your pits?
Yeah, my pits was down from March last year to September 17th. The US National Aerobatic Championships was the 2 weeks after I got my airplane fixed. So I trained for a couple of weeks. My G tolerance was off and everything like that. And I flew out there. I said, let me see if I can just get top 10. And those boys out there whipped my butt up and down that runway. So I didn't finish top 10. So, but there's a way to still get in, and that's what I'm working on right now. I may fly for the Nigerian flag because I can go there and represent Nigeria. I am Nigerian. I have dual citizenship. So those are the two angles I'm going to be maybe doing. And I think flying for the Nigerian flag, I think is pretty awesome to then go in there and represent Nigeria. If I can, represent America or fly as an independent flyer.
Cool. I don't know a whole lot about the aerobatic competitive circuit. So are there also regional competitions in between all of these bigger ones?
Yeah, there are regional competitions. So they're all over the United States. So there's one happening next week, actually, in Borrego Springs.
That's the one you're going to be in.
Yeah, I'll be doing that one, Borrego Springs. If everything works out right, I'll be doing that. There's one in Apple Valley. There's gonna be one up north from the Bay. I want to kind of get out to like Georgia, Rome. I want to go to Georgia and kind of get out there and do some competitions out there in the East Coast and southern places up there, because I got some friends out there that would be fun to kind of compete against.
Anthony, how often do you practice?
I try to do it every day.
Literally.
Yeah, I try to 30 minute tops.
Okay, so you go up and do 30 minutes and do that at least once a day?
Yeah.
Yeah, because it sounds like what you were saying before with what happened to you last year or whatever, that if you're down for a while not flying, that it takes a minute to get back up. And even with your level of experience and all the years that you've been doing it, you just to get your timing back, so to speak.
Yeah, think about it like let's say you're an Olympic track runner, and let's say during the season you're running every day. Let's say the off season, like me, is from winter time. So that's the fall, the winter. So let's say October through like the end of February. Let's say you didn't run at all, and let's say in March you you just get it back on the treadmill. Like, let me just get on the treadmill. Let me just start getting things ready. You would feel it. You would be out of breath. You'll be bending over, grabbing your knees. It'll take you about a couple of weeks to get your lungs back acclimated to running and breathing and all sorts of stuff. So. Yeah, it's that's what it is for me, for aerobatics competition, stuff like that. When I take some time off, I gotta either get my G's back, I go slow. The negative G's hurt. Negative G's was when you're pushing, when the blood is actually pushing up. It has nowhere to go, guys, And so
Yes.
you got to get used to that. You just go slow, and I've learned that over time. Back in the day, thought I was a young buck, and I would go way too fast and feel sick after. So
So there are several types of aircraft that pilots pick to be the aircraft that they do their aerobatic performances in, and you picked the biplane. You picked the Pitts special.
Yeah.
Why the Pitts?
Well, to be honest with you, and to be quite frank, I mean, Pitts is, to me, it's like a poor man's airplane. It's just what I could afford at the time when I started this thing back in 2015. Remember when I bought my Cessna in 2013, I used those proceeds to buy the Pitts, because the Pitts was somewhere, under $80,000. Now the boys that I'm competing against, they have $500,000 airplane, and it's just, for me, just to stay in the sport and do what I'm doing, that will put me out of business. So,
Right.
But I say that too to say this: the Pitts is a lovely, lovely airplane. It is amazing. It's capable. It was one of the most capable airplanes back in the 80s and 90s. But as technology advanced, I mean, these engineers made some really monstrous airplanes like that. They could do anything. So yeah, I love the Pitts. I mean, my next plane I think I would like to get is an Edge 540. I think that'll be the next step. But again, it's got to be something where I have to save up for and plan with.
Yeah. As you get more sponsorship support, how frequently would you really like to be doing the air shows and the competition and the races?
Say that one more time. I'm sorry. I got some background.
Oh, no problem. I was saying, when you get the kind of sponsorship support that you really would like to have, how much more would you do as far as air shows, air races, competition, etc.?
I say on a good year, I could probably get in maybe 6 to 8 air shows. I would say on a good year. If I've had the correct backing and support and sponsorships, I could double that, maybe more. And then also add in like speaking engagements. Like I said, I'm all about giving back to the inner city kids. Like I would love to go fly to like New York, Chicago, and fly, and then just kind of like put these kids in a bus them out to like a municipal airport, and I just come overhead and just buzz them, and I just put smoke on, and I'll land, pull the airplane up right in front of them, jump out of the airplane and say, "Hey, what's up, guys? My name is Anthony Oshinuga. This is what I do. You can too." And just kind of inspire kids like that, because I know for sure that's what they need.
Yes.
They just need that. They need to see that. They need to see it's possible. And I just don't have the backing right now to do that. But that'll be a dream of mine to be.
So you would do that in between. You like to do that like in between shows and.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. Like, yeah. I mean, sometimes there's weeks that I don't have an air show. So and if there's a company or a school or whatever, they have an aviation day at one of these schools, we just kind of partner with the city to get these school buses and bus these kids down to a municipal airport. And I can come out there and give a nice little speech and inspire the kids. We'll give out some memorabilia, hats or something like that, the logo on it, and then have some way for them to reach me on Instagram so we can answer any questions they may have if they didn't have an opportunity to ask me in person, stuff like that. So yeah, I mean, that's just, I'm dreaming right now. So I don't know if that's ever going to happen, but it'd be awesome to kind of find, if the opportunity happened, where I could just do that. Right. Cause
I think it will happen, because everything you've dreamed about wanting to happen so far, you've done. So
yeah, it's just, it's just a lot of work. I mean, I want to be at a place where, I love working for aviation. Like I love to go compete and learn things new and challenge myself. I love that type of work. But the other work is like being able to have the backing to go touch a soul and inspire that soul. That takes work in terms of the financial work and the planning work, logistic work, and stuff like that. So, but I'm trying. I'm still, whenever I have an opportunity, when I'm at these air shows, I always ask about STEM, and I always ask how can I, be more involved in this city, whatever city I'm in, doing the air show in or whatever have you. So,
yeah, well, you're one person and you're trying to cover a lot of ground. As we kind of wrap things up, in terms of the inspiration that you like to dish out, let you just make some closing comments about what you would advise the next generation coming up that's, wanting to consider doing something like this, or just wanting to get in aviation in general, your perspective?
Yeah, so I would say number one, people are going to tell you that you can't do it. Hands down. I mean, it happened to me. When I was younger and I used to hear it, I was like, that's not gonna ever happen to me. It happens to me all the time. People are like, oh no, you can't do this, you can't do that. You don't belong here. You don't have the aptitude to do this. And so I would say, those are called naysayers. Don't believe them. They're wrong. I'm living proof of it. I'm here, and I say it humbly that you can achieve anything you put your mind to, because I am living proof. So once you finally get to a point in your life where you say, you know what, I want to be a astronaut, aviator, engineer, race car driver, whatever it may be, go after it wholeheartedly. You have to put every ounce of your soul into what you want. And if you do that, I guarantee you will see the fruits of your labor. Again, because I'm living proof. So I would say that. So that's kind of, if you take that energy and put it into whatever you want, the universe has to give you what you're asking for. People are going to come in your life that's going to want to help you out. So just, take that help. And when you get to the point where you can give back, definitely give back to them. Because, like I know I'm here not because of me. It's definitely because of God and the people that he has sent in my life that have helped me in this aviation space to get to where I'm at. So I'm always thankful and grateful. So take that too along. Always be grateful and thankful for the things that come to you.
Yeah. You are on a number of social media platforms. So what are the best ways for people to get in touch with you, whether it's somebody wanting to help sponsor you or a young person that wants to hear more about what you do?
I'm very active on Instagram. I don't post a lot, but I post a lot of stories on stuff like that. If you want to, reach out to me on all my social media handles. So it's usually Anthony Oshinuga, my first and last name. So it's Anthony, Anthony. Last name Oshinuga is Oshinuga. Just type that in. I pop up on Instagram. So I'm active there. So you can reach out to me, give me a follow, and I try my best to get to reach out to every message that comes through. So if I don't reach back to you immediately, don't be discouraged. I'll get to you, I promise. Because I know when I was younger, going through the game, I would reach out to some of these pilots, and they never reached back out to me, but I'm not like that. So I try to share my passion, my intellect, my knowledge, my wisdom, the little that I have, because I don't know everything, but I like to share what I have to help anyone along their way of becoming an aviator.
Awesome. Anthony, I appreciate you taking the time. I know that you are very busy, but it's great to have the opportunity to talk with you one-on-one. And also, I think you even though you've covered a lot of ground, I see a lot in your future with what you're doing. So I wish you the absolute best with all of your flying and aviation activities, and go get them.
Hey, Vince, I appreciate it. Thanks again for having me on your show. I always enjoy talking to you, man. This was a great time. Just catching up and talking with you this time around. So hope to see you again soon.
Yeah, absolutely. As always, my primary objective with all things aviation and aerospace is to not only share aviation and aerospace career opportunities, but to expose the up and coming generation, as we were just talking about, of aspiring young aviation professionals to the plethora of possibilities that are available, and inspire any and everyone who has ever considered or thought about pursuing a career in the aviation industry. To see more aviation and aerospace career videos like this one, please go to my Private Air Media video library on YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn, or you can listen to the podcast version on Spotify, Apple, or anywhere that you listen to podcasts on. I hope that you enjoy this great conversation with Anthony Oshinuga. And next week, I will be delving into about becoming an air traffic controller and what that's all about. As you probably heard on the news, air travel is growing leaps and bounds, and the need for air traffic controllers is at an all-time high. So I will talk to some very experienced experts from the FAA about what a great career it is. Speaking of which, the online 2023 hiring application window for becoming an air traffic controller opens on May 5th through May 8th. So you may want to look that up and look into that if you have some interest in it. But again, we'll be talking about it next Thursday on the show. All Things Aviation and Aerospace is a presentation of Private Air Media. If you haven't already subscribed, I'd ask that you please do. Till next time, please take care, stay safe, safe flying if you're a pilot, and blue skies. All the best.